Good morning, Wabash. This week speaking at chapel is Dr. Schmitzer-Torbert. Dr. Schmitzer-Torbert joined the Wabash Psychology Department in 2006, and many of his courses focus on the neuroscience and our behavior and experience. He has also taught courses on human sexuality, drugs, and a freshman tutorial on science fiction and personal identity. For school, he attended Knox College, majoring in psychology, and then went on to receive his PhD in neuroscience from the University of Minnesota. His research focuses on the neuroscience of memory, and recent projects have tested the effects of cocaine on learning in rats and developing video games to test memory in humans. He lives here in town with his wife, Wendy, and their 2 daughters, and the family spends much of their time at their children's swim meets, soccer games, and local theater productions. Giving his talk titled, What's in a Name, Dr. Schmitzer-Torbert.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Good. I'm going to hold you to that. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank the Sphinx Club for the invitation, and to thank all of you for coming out today. I know this is a busy time, and I appreciate you making some space in your schedule. This is, the spring where I'm finishing up my 11th year at Wabash College, and I've never given a chapel talk in that time. Thanks. And while I greatly enjoy working with students in my courses, I really find this type of public speaking to be stressful. So in those 11 years, it really didn't bother me at all to have missed out. But when Jade contacted me over winter break, I was happy to accept, because I really do appreciate the tradition of chapel talks, the role it plays in our community, and I was happy to be part of it. That did leave me with the question about what to talk about, and early this spring, my topic solidified as I found myself explaining, yet again, to a person I had met, the origin of my name, Schmitzer-Torbert. And so, as many of you don't know that story, and maybe to save myself some time in the future, I want to take a moment and tell you a little bit about how I found my name when I was a college student. I was born in Illinois in the city of Galesburg, which, for what it's worth, is about twice the size of Crawfordsville. My parents gave me the name Neil. I'd like to think it was in honor of the astronaut Neil Armstrong, but knowing them, I think it was equally important to them was the singer Neil Young. My father is named John Torbert III, and so just the name Neil itself was a significant break from tradition. Growing up in Illinois, I found that I enjoyed school and academics, and so it was perhaps natural that I would go on to college after graduating from high school. But that was another break from tradition, as no one in my immediate, or as far as I can recall, my extended family had completed a 4-year college degree at that time. I ended up at Knox College, which is also in Galesburg, Illinois, more by accident than as a result of my own long-term planning. I really had no idea what a liberal arts college was, but I was familiar with Knox's reputation as a strong college in our community, and I just happened to have a friend who was applying to Knox because his father and grandfather had both attended there. So, like Wabash, Knox is a private liberal arts college. It's also located just off Interstate 74 in a relatively small town. Unlike Wabash, it is larger, about 1,400 students currently, and it is co-ed, which is a significant difference. And in fact, right now, their current student body is about 57% female. But I do hope that if you visited, you would not find Knox to be some kind of unrecognizable or alien place. I hope that you would find in it, or would recognize in it, a sense of community and a sense of shared purpose, very similar to the one that makes our home here at Wabash so special. I came into college as a first-generation college student, though my parents had completed several years of community college. As I think back, my recollection is that as a high school student, I knew college was important and it was the next step to securing some kind of better career, but I don't think I really had a useful understanding of how college was different from high school, and probably thought of it as just a continuation of high school. Probably my most direct experience with college education came in the mid-1980s, after my father lost his job when the case manufacturing plant closed in the Quad Cities. And he went on to enroll in a local community college and earn his associate's degree. And that turned out to be very important for him as he was developing his electrical contracting business, which he still runs today. Later, I saw my mother go on to community college for her associate's degree, and those memories, the images of the seriousness with which my parents pursued their own education and the role it played in securing their careers, I think was formative for me. And I think these memories helped shape how I approached college as a valuable and rare opportunity rather than something that was given. In rural Illinois, like so many other rural places, career options can be quite limited, and a college education really can make a significant difference in one's options. So I arrived at Knox College as Neil Torbert. That fall, I met a special young woman, Wendy Schmitzer, and we started dating in October of 1996. So that means last fall, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of our first meeting. Thanks. After about a year and a half, when we finished our sophomore year in 1998, Wendy and I packed up our things and moved out to Worcester, Massachusetts. I was on my way to complete a research internship at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center to study the health benefits of a program in mindfulness-based stress reduction that had been developed there. Wendy was willing to come with me so that we did not have to be separated for the summer, and she ended up working in retail and left with some colorful stories, perhaps for another time, about being a Midwesterner and working in a mall in the East Coast. My research internship was unpaid, and the only reason I was able to complete it was that Knox College was fortunate to have a McNair Scholars Program. The program was funded through a federal grant and named for Ronald E. McNair, the physicist and astronaut who died in the Challenger space shuttle explosion. The McNair Scholars Program nationwide aims to encourage more college students from underrepresented groups to go on to graduate study and specifically to complete PhDs. To qualify, one needs to be either a racial or ethnic minority, low income, and/or a first-generation college student. I qualified on the last two criteria as a first-generation college student, though, as I mentioned, my parents had completed some community college, and as a low-income student who was eligible for federal Pell Grants. For this talk, I actually went back to my tuition bill from the last semester of college, which I have, as everyone does, from the spring of 2000, and found that I had received grants based on financial need through Pell, through a federal supplemental educational opportunity grant, and also through a monetary award from the state of Illinois that altogether covered about 52% of the cost for me to go to college. I'm very grateful for that support. I really don't think that I would have attended Knox or possibly even college at all without it. And I do hope that today, that as I try to make my own contributions as an educator, that we would feel that those investments are producing long-term returns for our country. At Knox, the McNair program provided mentoring and formal programming to help students understand more about PhD programs, how to apply, how to get in, and this is especially important for first-generation college students. College itself was foreign to me, so much more foreign was the idea of graduate study. And also importantly, it provided students with funding for one summer internship. I was able to use those funds to help cover some of the costs of traveling to Massachusetts for the summer. And between my stipend and Wendy's pay, we survived that summer. And it was an important experience for us both. For myself, professionally, it was critical. And it was also important for us personally as a couple. We actually drove ourselves to Massachusetts from Midwestern Illinois in a tiny Toyota pickup truck with no radio and no air conditioning in the beginning of summer. This was before cell phones and most portable electronics. We did buy a large CD player, bulky, which was animated by an obscene number of giant batteries, so that we could listen to CDs until the batteries died, and the radio during our trip. Wendy will tell you that there was a point during this journey when she realized that we might be able to work and to make a life for together as a couple when we could make it to Massachusetts and back without hating each other. During our time in Massachusetts, this was probably the window in which we started to talk more openly and seriously about our long-term future together. And we did decide in those conversations that we would at some point get engaged and get married, although I didn't propose at that moment. So we went ahead, as any couple will, out to a Kay Jewelers and ordered a wedding ring set for Wendy, probably spending a few $100s, which we really didn't have at the time. Wendy, in another break from tradition, preferred the stone alexandrite which shifts its color between green and purple depending on the lighting, over diamonds. And we had a stone ordered and set in a custom band, a circle of golden leaves. I held on it until I proposed the next year, our junior year at Knox. Looking back, I don't know if that summer was the moment when we started talking about our last name and what we would do with it after we got married. I do remember that at some point those conversations started and talking with Wendy about it, and I remember that she had some reservations about giving up her name. And while I hadn't really thought much about it before that, it did feel arbitrary to me to say that in getting married that her family name wouldn't matter. And it didn't feel right for us as two people who talked through our plans very openly to simply follow a tradition that seemed to privilege men's names over women's. I also remember taking a class on women's studies at that time for distribution, which I valued quite a bit, and which served as an opportunity for me to think through and clarify my own concerns. So we did decide in that process that whatever we would do, it would be intentional. And we considered a variety of options. I could have taken her name, or we could have each taken the other's name, or maybe taken the other's name as a middle name. For a time, our favorite option was to create an entirely new name. Just take the letters, Schmitzer and Torbert, and mix them up. No, it seemed perfectly reasonable. So I will say, for the most stable option was Torsch, T-O-R-S-C-H. Had a certain, sleekness to it. It didn't stick, however, for a number of reasons, not the least of which that one night over drinks, a friend pointed out that we could use the letters of our names and spell out other interesting words like sorbet. We love frozen treats as much or more as the next person, but not that much. So, with the idea of an entirely new name ruined forever, we went on back to the drawing board and came to hyphenation to create Schmitzer-Torbert. I will say that order is mostly arbitrary. I don't think we decided until our minister asked us at our wedding rehearsal which name would go first, did we finally decide. But, in the end, I really do prefer that order, Schmitzer-Torbert, to its reverse, Torbert-Schmitzer. The decision, though, while I kind of describe it lightly as an easy thing, to change my name really wasn't without difficulty. On the practical side, after we were married, when I went to change my name on legal documents, turned out Social Security card was not a problem at all. But in Minneapolis, the local DMV, workers there did balk, in part because Illinois, on the marriage certificate, there's really no space for a male to change his name, or there wasn't at the time. And so at least the workers we talked to there, we ran into a wall, even though I had my new Social Security card. But fortunately, a neighbor in our apartment complex pointed out that at another DMV around the corner from our home, that some of the employees there were perhaps a little more open-minded and flexible. And so we found some that were willing to push the name change through. And so I was fortunate in that. Wendy's name was very easy to change because everyone we encountered expected it to change anyway. In our personal lives also, before we got married, I think my recollection is our parents and our immediate family were understanding and very supportive. But that wasn't true of everyone we knew. In some cases, we could be very surprised to find who had a strong opinion, often negative, of our new last name, or even refuses to use it now. And I tend to be a person who doesn't like to disappoint others, and so that made it harder for me to commit. But in the end, we did, and I don't think we lost any friendships over it, and in the end, I wouldn't have done it any other way. And so that's how I came by my name. Some of it I was given, Neil, Chadwick, Torbert. Other parts I chose, Schmitzer. And I'm glad that we had the choice to live in a way that fit our principles and values. That's not true for everyone. If you follow the news, there was a recent story a couple weeks ago about a transgender man in Indiana who's suing the state to change his legal name from a female typical one to a male typical one. Some part of his suit is likely based on the fact that he wants his legal name to match his gender identity, and you may or may not find that reasoning compelling. But he also wants to change his name because he's experienced negative consequences, such as when he describes a police officer accusing him of providing false identification when he provided a license with his given female name. He also states that he lost a job opportunity when he had to explain that he was transgender. His suit was rejected, I believe, because the man's not a U.S. citizen, though he is living in the country legally currently, yes. And I'm not a lawyer, and I understand there could be very good legal reasons to deny this request, but I struggle to see the humane ones. And it just makes me, again, very glad that for Wendy and I, we were able to live and make our own choice. So as I look back, going to college, and to one specific college, was a critical experience for me. Meeting Wendy in the fall of '96 was probably the single most important event that happened to me at Knox College. And I found a career, one that I deeply value. Many other important events happened, which I don't have time to describe today, unless you don't have lunch plans. No? All right, well, it's good then. But I would say that the reason that each of these moments were significant and impactful had as much to do with the community, the environment I found in college, as it did with the events themselves. I found at Knox a community which called on its members to live authentically, to examine the assumptions that guide our choices. What's important in life? How do we want to live? That's a special place that takes those kinds of questions seriously. And I hope you found Wabash to be such a place, and you continue to make Wabash such a place where we can talk seriously and openly about how we want to live and how to live with integrity and with authenticity. For me, one of those important moments was when I decided I could go against a tradition and change my name. And I don't judge anyone who makes a different decision. What we did wasn't perfect. It doesn't matter if you decide in the end to take your husband's name or if someone won't take their spouse's name. But I'll leave you with the thought, though, that I hope that we all, in each part of our lives, continue to look carefully at how we're living and how to become the kinds of people we really want to be. So thank you, Wabash, for your time.